Do something intelligent!
G'day viewers, I'm Fless. In this video I'm taking the D-Max on a trip way up north, up to a place called Cape Melville. It's on the way to Cape York. It's about 2,000 kilometres north of Brisbane. So I hope to catch a few fish and have a good time. If you're interested in coming up here yourself, hang around towards the end of the video. I'll talk about all the logistics, talk about fuel, food, what to take and what to expect. So let's go. Okay, this is how you get to Cape Melville. You come up the Queensland coast, drive through Townsville, through Ingham, through Tully. When you get to Innisfail, turn off and go up to the Atherton tableland, go up through Atherton, Mareeba, up along the Mulligan Highway, up to Lakeland. When you get to Lakeland, turn left, head towards Cape York, and go up to Laura. From there you turn off into the Lakefield National Park, come up the Lakefield National Park Road, across the Kennedy River, up along the Wekuket track, up to the Cape Melville turn-off, then up to the beach. On the way home I like to come back down through Lakefield National Park, then turn off at Battle Camp Road over to Cooktown. From there you can drive along the coast, through the Daintree National Park, past Cape Tribulation, across the Daintree River, down past Port Douglas, Cairns and back south. On this trip the bitumen runs out at Laura. After that there's around 180 kilometres of dusty, corrugated, red dirt road until you reach the southern end of the Cape Melville National Park, and that's where the road gets really tough. The billabongs on either side of the road through Lakefield National Park all hold stranded barramundi during the dry season. Unfortunately, they also hold large crocodiles. So if you stop and can't see any, that doesn't mean there's none there. In addition to barra, you can catch other elusive species such as archerfish and tarpon. The crossing of the Kennedy River at Calpower Station is across a causeway, and it's quite easy to get across in the dry season. After crossing the river, the road becomes quite corrugated, and it's necessary to let your tyres down to stop your vehicle from shaking apart. For me, dropping down from 40 to about 25 psi makes a huge improvement. It's best to limit your speed to around 80 km an hour on the lower tyre pressures. After about 80 kilometres from the Kennedy River crossing, you'll come across a small shelter which marks the turn-off towards Cape Melville. To reach the beach from there, you'll have another 40 kilometres of four-wheel drive only track. This track is not for the faint-hearted. It's rough, rocky, can be muddy after rain, and there are some quite difficult sand sections. It takes more than 2 hours to travel the 40 kilometres. You should drop your tyre pressures even further here, down to no more than 20 psi. To actually reach your beach campsite at Cape Melville, you may have to drive over a wet, slippery, muddy salt pan, across saltwater creeks and drive over soft beach sand. Always follow previous wheel tracks across a salt pan, and once committed to a crossing, get a good run up and don't stop for any reason. If you do stop, you could be there for quite a long time. There are 4 different national parks camping areas along the beach. All of them have 0 facilities. There are crocodiles in the open waters off the beach and in the creeks. When fishing, keep well away from the water's edge. I like to fish at a small rocky outcrop where it would be more difficult for a hungry croc to snatch a human meal. Keep in mind that there's been at least one instance of a croc here coming right into a campsite at night time, grabbing a person sleeping. Rather than following the same route out of the park and back south, I like to travel via Cooktown, then down the famous Cape Tribulation Road and catch the ferry across the Daintree River. You can fish for barramundi at some of the saltwater rivers and creeks you cross on this coast road. I like the Bloomfield River, where I've caught a few barramundi from the shore. Always look out for crocodiles. Now for the logistics of a Cape Melville trip. If driving at night, always watch out for kangaroos once you get north of Brisbane. They're often suicidal, and a strong bull bar will give you some protection. While fuel is available at Lakeland and Laura, if you only want to pay close to city prices, it's best to fill up at Mareeba on the way north. My D-Max will use about 80 litres of fuel for the trip from there to Cape Melville and back to Cooktown, with a little bit of exploring in between. Mareeba is also the last place to stock up on groceries. Don't count on lots of fish to supplement your meals. The barramundi you catch in freshwater billabongs are not that good to eat, and if the vicious southeasterly trade winds are blowing at Cape Melville, the saltwater fishing can be very difficult. On the other hand, if all your stars line up, you'll catch mangrove jacks, barramundi, queenfish, salmon, grunter bream and trevally along the beach, which are all pretty good eating. A high clearance 4-wheel drive vehicle is necessary for the Cape Melville track. There are a couple of very soft sandy sections around 30 kilometres from the turnoff. As a minimum, your recovery gear should consist of some max tracks and a snatch strap. All-terrain tyres are best for this trip. Muddies would be handy in the very rough bits of the track, but if you're driving all the way from one of the southern capitals, the road noise on the highway will probably drive you insane before you get there. I sleep in the back of my dirty D-Max ute. One advantage is that wherever I go, I know exactly what the accommodation is going to be like, and believe me, it's not 5-star. The other advantage is that I can sleep closer to the beach without worrying about large reptiles trying to eat me. Keep in mind that if the wind isn't blowing hard, the sandflies can be atrocious. If you're badly affected by them, like me, make sure you cover up and wear repellent. Rooftop tents are popular at Cape Melville, but if you have a ground tent, make sure you camp well away from the water's edge. Campfires are permitted, but you must not collect wood from within the national park. Fresh water is available in a creek behind the Wongai camping area. It's also a good place to have a dip without worrying about crocs. Unless your stomach is used to creek water, it would be best to boil it before drinking. There's no mobile phone reception in either Lakefield or Cape Melville National Parks. Around Laura and Cooktown are the only places you can reliably make contact with the outside world. Overall, Cape Melville is a great place to visit. Remote beaches and tracks with very few visitors are becoming scarcer and scarcer. There's no doubt the place will become increasingly popular over time. I hope this video has convinced you to get off your bum and organise a trip as soon as possible.